now know how to design applications. You now know how to develop applications.
It's terrific.
been a pleasure. Good.
No, not so fast. Now that we've built them, we actually have to get them out into the world.
You're staying for a while.
I am.
Okay, then it's off to the deployment lab.
So, all of this Flash and Flex content has been great, and I think there's a lot of Flash content out on the web right now, and from what we've seen, there's going to be a lot more. But I've got a concern. Is it really safe? You know, you can't search it. You know, Google can't index it. So, I think
that's a valid concern. Now, just to be very clear, this is not a Flash player or Flex issue. This is an issue with any highly dynamic content. The way search engines work is they read pages. What they read, what they can see, they can index. If they have to execute a page, it has to be run to any content, they're not going to see it. But we have a solution. Agent Jim.
All right, and you're totally right. If you want to index dynamic content, you have to run the code. So Adobe got together with Google to solve this problem. Came up with a two-part solution. The Google side is the virtual user. It's a piece of software that has to act like a real user, be able to see all the text on a page, click on buttons and sprites, go visiting all the visual states in that app, getting the text from all of them. On the Adobe side, we made a modified Flash player. It does almost everything that regular Flash player does, but it takes commands from the virtual user that tells it what to do. So let's see how well this works. All right, our demo is going to be a Flash application written in Flex. You can see there's a bunch of text on this page. Click on this button, there's a bunch more text with a bunch of phones, and more text on the third page. So the first thing I'm going to show is an old method for indexing Flash content called Swift to HTML. It basically just plowed through all the data in the file, looking for statically defined text fields. We know Flash is pretty dynamic, so let's see how this works. Now, this isn't a little shim Swift that it's operating on. It's the real FlexStore Swift, which is 450K or something. You see nothing. Nothing at all. There are no statically defined text fields.
It'd be nice if you could see it.
Yeah.
Ah, now
there we
you
go.
can see it. Thank you.
Okay, so here's the output of that empty HTML. So there are no statically defined text fields, and this should be no surprise. Dynamic content, you know, you have to run the code.
Okay, so what's the alternative?
All right, so here I'm going to show you the virtual user Flash search player combo. All right, so what this is going to do, it's going to search the first page we saw, and then it's going to click on that button, search the second page, click on the third button, and search the third page. It's also going to render, the Flash search player is going to render into the virtual user so you can see what's going on. And the coolest part is that all that text is going to spew out into a Linux terminal window, and demos don't get any geekier than that. All right. Okay, here we go. All right, loading up. There's the first, second, and the third. And here we've got, here's the money. All the text from the third page, text from that second page, lots of phones, and the text from the first page.
Great, so all that can be indexed now.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, great. So, briefly, for us little people, how does this work?
Okay, so the virtual user loads up the Flash search player. Virtual user is part of the search engine. As you can see, search engine. And it says, okay, here's a URL. Fully qualified URL is key because all the security rules have to work just like they do as if a real user was there so that the visual state is the same. And then the data, which is all the data of that Swift file, boom. So the player loads it up and waits for instructions. Doesn't do anything on its own. So then the virtual user might say, advance, n seconds in time. So the player starts blazing through all the frames as fast as it can go. And let's say it hits some action script, executing all the action script as it went. Let's say it hits some action script that jumps to another frame, changes the visual state a lot. Well, we tell the virtual user this, we call back and say, hey, the state's changed. You might want to do something. Virtual user then might go, yeah, I want to search right now. I'm going to it calls in with traverse display list, which means it goes through the entire Flash display list looking for text fields, buttons, and sprites. And when the Flash search player encounters any of these, it calls back into the virtual user and tells it about it. So it might find a text field and it finds a button. And when that's all done, the virtual user may say, okay, I'd like to click on one of those buttons. So it calls in to us and says, us being the Flash search player, and it says generate event. So we actually generate an event, click on it, and run all the actions. Those actions may be a load movie for an XML file. Do we go to the network? No. Call back into the virtual user, the search engine, and say, hey, get me this data. And of course, it has everything on the web. So it goes and gets it, brings it up, and sends it back to us.
It's great. Genius. Solves the problem.
Yep. So people ask me about best practices a lot. And the only one I can really think of is to make sure your stuff is found. Use Swift Object or the Adobe Detection Kit to embed yourself on the page to make sure your stuff's found. That's key. And if you want to find out more about this, I'm giving a talk tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And this is how we solved indexing Flash content.
Great. Thank you, Jim.